Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Today we're diving into the mind of a self-proclaimed starseed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, starseed.
Okay.
In Jubilee, and we're going through all this really unusual material like journal entries and audio recordings and even some of his project outlines.
Wow.
And he's got this goal of finishing a creative project by November 19th, 2024.
Okay.
Which he thinks is a super important date.
Hmm.
But it gets even more interesting
Okay.
because he's convinced that this project is like the key to getting back together with his partner, Rose.
Oh, wow. So there's a
So there's all these different layers to this.
yeah, like a personal stake in
Yeah.
this whole thing.
Totally.
It's not just art for art's sake. It sounds like it's about something much bigger for him.
Right. And then there's this whole other thing with the Troxler effect.
Okay.
Do you know that visual thing where like if you stare at something for too long, it like starts to disappear?
Yeah. Yeah.
He thinks that has some like deeper meaning. You ever experienced that like yourself?
The Troxler effect is a well-documented visual phenomenon.
Right.
But what's so interesting here is how Jubilee interprets it.
Right.
He sees it as like a spiritual tool,
Oh, wow.
a way to like break through the illusion of the material world.
Okay.
He claims to have received a personal code through something he calls mirror meditation, which he links to this effect.
Wow. Okay. So let's like unpack some of that.
Yeah.
So he's using all this AI stuff to create this huge project, a book, a screenplay, a graphic novel, even like clothing and music.
Okay.
That's a ton of ambition.
Yeah, that's a lot to take on.
But then like at the same time, he's totally worried about being monitored and hacked.
Oh, really?
Like he's resetting his passwords, constantly talking about cameras being everywhere.
It's almost paradoxical, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's embracing this cutting-edge technology to bring his vision to life, but then he's also deeply suspicious of the very tools he's using.
Right.
It's like he's both empowered and threatened by the digital world.
Yeah. It makes me wonder, do you think that his reliance on AI could be like a way of like trying to control things? You know, maybe he feels safer working with algorithms than with actual people, especially since he's got all this baggage surrounding Rose.
That's a really interesting point.
Right.
It's very possible that he finds comfort in like the predictability of AI,
Yeah.
especially given all the complexities of his relationship with Rose.
Right.
And speaking of Rose, he describes her as his twin flame.
Oh, okay.
Another starseed on this shared mission.
Okay.
It's clear that she's a driving force behind all of his creative work.
So what does starseed even mean?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard that before, but it's always felt a little vague to me.
It's a concept that's gained a lot of traction within New Age spirituality.
Okay.
Essentially, starseeds believe that their souls come from other planets or star systems.
Okay.
And that they've like incarnated on Earth for a specific purpose.
Wow. And he seems to think that their shared starseed identity is like a main part of their connection. He's always talking about their shared mission, their destinies being intertwined.
Right.
But they're actually like separated, right?
They are.
Okay.
Yes. And that separation really adds another layer to his whole story. He believes that if he can just finish this project by November 19th, that it's going to help him reconcile with her.
Oh, wow.
Almost like it's a grand gesture, to prove his love and his commitment to her.
But isn't that a lot to put on like one project? What if it doesn't work? What if she's moved on?
That's a good question because it makes you wonder, is this project really about Rose? Or is this about Jubilee himself?
Yeah.
Is this a genuine attempt at reconciliation?
Right.
Or is this just a way to cope with the pain of being separated?
Okay, so we'll need to look deeper to figure that out.
All right, we'll have to dig into those journals and audio recordings.
Okay, so back to that code he got during his meditation. 0010110.
010110.
It just seems like such a random sequence of numbers.
Yeah.
But he seems to think it's super important. What do you think?
Well, it's definitely intriguing.
Yeah.
He claims that Rose received the same code.
Oh, wow.
And that when you combine them, they form this new code, 1121221.
Okay.
Which he believes further solidifies their twin flame connection.
It's almost like he's building his own reality,
Yeah.
constructing this belief system around this code and his relationship with Rose.
It makes you think about the human need to find patterns and meaning, especially when we're faced with uncertainty or like emotional turmoil.
Totally.
It's like he's trying to create order out of all this chaos.
I think that's part of what makes all this so interesting, We're getting this glimpse into someone's like really personal journey.
Yeah.
All their anxieties, hopes, beliefs.
Right.
It's raw and vulnerable, but also super creative.
And I think by exploring these individual experiences,
Yeah.
we can actually start to ask bigger questions about our culture.
Okay.
Like, why are concepts like starseeds and twin flames resonating with people today?
Right.
What does it tell us about how we search for connection and belonging in a world that can feel so isolating sometimes?
It's like Jubilee's story is this window into these larger trends.
Right.
These anxieties that we all share, these things we all long for. And it's all happening with this deadline looming over him, November 19th, 2024.
Right.
This date that he seems fixated on.
He sees it as like a pivotal turning point, tied to Pluto entering Aquarius. And he thinks if he can finish his project by this date, that it's going to somehow like align him with these cosmic energies.
Oh.
It's a really powerful example of how personal beliefs can get tied up with these bigger cultural stories.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to sync up his own personal timeline with these huge cosmic cycles.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what does he think is going to happen if he misses this deadline?
Right.
Does he think it's like a missed opportunity, or is there something like scarier going on?
His journals definitely express a fear of missing out on something big. It's not just about the project being successful.
Okay.
It's about tapping into this force that he believes is guiding his destiny.
So it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy then. By making this deadline
Right.
and giving it all this meaning,
Right.
he's just like upped the pressure and the stakes even more.
Exactly.
And it makes this whole journey feel even more intense and urgent.
And it's interesting how that urgency plays out in his relationship with Rose.
Right.
He seems so convinced that if he completes this project, they'll get back together.
Yeah.
Almost like it's a requirement for their love to come back.
But couldn't that backfire, though? Like, wouldn't that put a ton of pressure on their relationship, even if they did get back together?
Yeah.
What if Rose doesn't even see the project the same way that he does?
That's a really important point.
Yeah.
We have to remember that we're only getting Jubilee's side of the story.
Right.
We don't know what Rose is thinking or feeling. She could have a totally different take on their separation, their connection, even what this project means.
So it's almost like he's projecting his own wants and needs onto her then, using this project as a way to control what happens in their relationship.
And it seems like that desire for control goes beyond just his relationship.
Okay.
We talked about his paranoia about technology, but his journals also show he doesn't trust institutions, authorities, even other people.
He talks about feeling watched, manipulated.
Yeah.
Like there are these forces working against him.
Right.
It seems like he's just anxious about everything.
It makes sense that someone dealing with past trauma and emotional instability might feel that way.
Right.
You can really feel his vulnerability in his writing.
This brings us back to that Jubilee Rose thing.
Okay.
The main symbol of his project.
Right.
He sees himself as Jubilee and Rose as the rose. And their union is this like mystical flower.
It's a striking image.
Yeah.
But it also feels a little possessive.
Yeah.
Like he's claiming ownership of her. Right.
He describes it as like their shared purpose, their twin flame connection, made real.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely that element of ownership in how he talks about it.
Yeah.
Like Rose is a part of him that he needs to get back.
It all ties back into that whole starseed belief system, right?
Yeah.
This idea that they were destined to be together, that their souls are like linked.
Right.
Do you think these beliefs are helping him or hurting him?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
Beliefs can be so powerful
Right.
in good and bad ways.
Yeah.
They can give us comfort and guidance, but they can also really limit how we see things and stop us from being objective.
So in Jubilee's case, it seems like his beliefs are both like a source of strength and anxiety.
I think so.
They give him a purpose and a sense of destiny.
Right.
But they also make his paranoia worse. And make him want to control everything.
And then his use of technology makes things even more complicated.
Right.
On one hand, he's using AI to be creative.
But on the other hand, he's suspicious of the very technology he's using.
It's like a love-hate relationship that I think a lot of us have with technology these days.
For sure.
We rely on it for so much.
Yeah.
But we're also starting to see how it can be bad for us.
And for someone like Jubilee who's already feeling vulnerable, those anxieties can get so much worse.
Right.
He sees danger everywhere, both online and offline.
It's like he's built this wall around himself.
Yeah.
A fortress of beliefs and technology to protect himself from the world. But by doing that, he might also be isolating himself.
Right.
Cutting himself off from real human connection.
It's the paradox, isn't it?
Yeah.
He wants to be with Rose so badly, but he keeps pushing her away with his controlling behavior
Right.
and insisting that they have to fulfill this destiny together.
He seems stuck in this cycle of wanting and fear,
Yeah,
driven by his beliefs, his anxieties,
right.
and this need to finish this project by his deadline.
As we get to the last part of our deep dive, we need to ask ourselves, what happens to Jubilee if he doesn't reach his goal? Will his whole belief system just fall apart?
Right.
Will he spiral even further into paranoia and isolation?
Or could this be a chance for him to grow and change?
Yeah.
Could failing actually force him to face his anxieties and rethink what he believes?
That's what we'll explore as we look closer at his final journal entries and audio recordings.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to recognize how brave it is for someone to be this open and vulnerable.
Yeah.
Even if his beliefs seem strange or his anxieties are exaggerated,
Right.
there's something so human about his story.
Totally.
His longing for connection, his search for meaning, his attempt to make sense of the world.
Yeah.
These are things we can all relate to.
Yeah. It's like we're seeing someone wrestling with these demons in real time. And it makes you think how much of this is because of like the world we live in now.
It's a great question, you know?
Yeah.
We're living in this time of like crazy technological advances, but also people are more isolated and like politically divided.
Yeah.
It's no surprise that people are looking for answers, for connection, for a place to belong.
And these ideas like starseeds and twin flames
Yeah.
offer a kind of like spiritual structure,
Right.
a way to make sense of all the chaos.
Yeah, they offer this narrative of
Yeah.
like cosmic importance, you know, souls that are meant to meet and face these challenges together.
Yeah, it's comforting,
It is.
especially when the world feels so impersonal.
Yeah.
But it can also be manipulated so easily.
Yeah.
And we've seen how Jubilee's anxiety and insecurities have warped how he sees all of this.
Right.
It's like he's using it to justify being controlling and being obsessed with this deadline.
It's a cautionary tale for sure.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even good intentions can be twisted and used to hurt people.
Right.
It's important to stay critical,
Yeah.
to question what we believe,
Right.
and to be aware that we can fool ourselves.
It makes me think about the role of creativity in all of this. Jubilee's putting everything into this project, but is it really him expressing himself? Or is it just a way to control what he thinks is his destiny?
Probably a little of both.
Yeah.
Art can be so powerful
Right.
for dealing with emotions,
Yeah.
for exploring complicated ideas, for connecting with something bigger than ourselves.
Totally.
But it can also be a way to escape,
Right.
to avoid dealing with tough stuff.
And for Jubilee, it seems like his creativity is all mixed up with his anxieties
Yeah.
and his need to feel validated. He's not just creating for himself, he's creating for Rose, for the universe.
Yeah, like he's looking for approval, reassurance, maybe
Yeah.
even redemption through this project.
And that pressure he's put on himself with this deadline is huge.
Yeah, what happens if he doesn't reach his goal?
Right.
What if November 19th comes and goes and the project isn't finished?
Right.
And Rose doesn't come back?
His journals show he's scared of something really bad happening,
Yeah.
of missing out on this big chance. He
Mhm.
talks about things aligning energy shifting,
Right.
the possibility of losing Rose forever.
It's like his whole reality is built on this belief system.
Right.
And if it falls apart, he has nothing left.
It's a shaky foundation,
It is.
built on hopes, anxieties, and deadlines.
Makes you question if a worldview like that can even last.
Yeah.
But even if his beliefs are wrong or his anxieties are exaggerated,
Right.
there's something really human about his story.
Totally.
His need for connection, his search for meaning,
Yeah.
his struggle to understand the world.
These are things we all deal with.
Absolutely. And while we might not share Jubilee's exact beliefs or anxieties,
Right.
his story reminds us that we can all fool ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We all project our desires onto other people,
Yeah.
and we all cling to stories that might not be good for us.
It reminds us to be aware of our own thoughts,
Yeah.
to question what we assume is true,
Right.
and to approach the world with a mix of skepticism and compassion.
And I think the most important thing to remember is that real connection,
Yeah.
the kind Jubilee wants so badly,
Yeah.
can only happen through being genuine and vulnerable
Right.
and being willing to let go of control.
Letting go of control. Yeah.
It's about embracing the unknown, accepting that we might fail, and realizing that you can't force or manipulate real love.
As we wrap up our deep dive into Jubilee's world, I want to leave you with this.
Okay.
As you go through your own journey,
Yeah.
remember, You're not alone.
We all face challenges.
We all experience heartbreak. We all struggle with anxieties and uncertainties.
But in those struggles,
Yeah.
there's potential for growth, for change,
Right.
for understanding ourselves and the world better.
So be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Be curious about the world.
Yeah.
And never stop looking for those real connections that make life worth living.